We stop expensive mistakes before they happen.
If you actually want to market any product, they end up just having like a jingle and a roadshow, and they give people T-shirts. And
Local PRs need to stop just launching. Oh, we're launching this. They're making noise. They're putting bulk SMSs.
welcome everybody. Welcome to yet another episode of the Zim Tech Podcast. Today we're joined by Sandra Usiku, a business analyst and founder of Techsolutely, a tech PR company that helps startups tell better stories. Sandra, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. Welcome.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for having me. And hello, everyone.
Thank you so much for taking your valuable time to be on the show. So we're just gonna jump straight into it. Can you tell us, like in very simple terms, what is a business analyst and what do you guys do?
Okay, so a business analyst, also known as a BA, is basically the bridge between business needs and technical solutions. So my job is to listen to the business, the stakeholders of the business, understand what they need, as well as also figure out how the tech team, the developers and the engineers can build a solution that can work hand in hand with what the business needs. So you are translating requirements of a customer into technical needs, and then designers and developers would build. So you're also assisting the tech team, and you're also talking to the business team. So you're just basically in between the business and the technology.
Oh, that sounds great. It sounds like it's very very useful. But maybe can you
Yeah.
start with why do we need someone in between, like the technical people and the business people? You,
Uh, just at the top of my head, we stop expensive mistakes before they happen. So we need that because as a business person, you want the business to grow, but you also then need technology for your business to grow. So you need someone who can interpret the business, and you also need someone who can interpret the technology. So, for example, I'm going to give you like a basic example. You can say, I want a chair. I want something to sit on. A business person will say, I want something to sit on when I get back at home. And a developer can build anything, a chair, a bench, a sofa, anything, right? A brick, a bucket, because you can sit on that. But the business analyst will then come in and say, okay, you want someone to sit on. Do you have a big space? Do you have fit problems? Do you spend a lot time during the day? And then we can curate a design that when you sit, you feel like, oh, I'm resting. So yeah, instead of just getting someone to sit on with what the developers would do, minus the business analyst would try to understand, why do you need a chair? How long do you sit? How long will you be standing up? Do you have leg problems? Do you want to rest? Do you want to watch TV while sitting? Do you want? So these are the questions that we're trying to understand, and hence stopping the expensive mistakes
mistakes.
of, yeah.
No, that's quite interesting. I was asking because like I've worked in a few companies, right? Some with BAs,
Mhm,
some without. And what you quickly
mhm.
realize is, yeah, you sort of need that translator in between. Because from the business side, the person is like, I want this done. And they look at tech as a black box and they're like, tech should know what I mean by this. And then from the technical side, you have people who are probably a bit too technical at times. So they wanna they probably operate best when you're actually given a specification to say, okay, you need to actually just do this. Otherwise, if you say I want to sit, the tech person will just be like, oh, you wanna sit? Here's a bucket, you can sit. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
nice. So walk me through
yeah.
like what's the day to day of a business analyst? What did you guys do? What tools do you use? What processes and things like that?
So what I can say, there's no typical day for a business analyst. It's a lot of context switching, depending on the phase of the product or the project, right? So it's a lot of meeting stakeholders. So maybe you have a new client who wants to talk about something, or maybe they have realized they have a solution. So you have to talk to them, understand. So that's like gathering requirement. It can be a focus group. It can be an interview. It can just be sitting to understand what they do, or reading customer complaints, right? And then there is also a lot of process documenting, like BPMNs, business process modeling, where you're trying to understand how the current system and what they're saying works. So you're also just trying to brainstorm, coming up with processes. Would this work? If that doesn't work, because sometimes the system doesn't know, and most people don't know that the system don't know. So you need to help the system to say, oh, if you put the wrong password, the system would display an error message saying incorrect password. And then some people will be like, oh, it's not logging in. I put the password, but it's the wrong one. So you have to do all those statements. You have to build to the designers, um, and just working with Jira, because I normally work with Agile business solutions. So working Jira, putting issues, just tracking tasks, also just a lot of research, trying to see like how are the platforms working, how can this process work, and also just be wary of the NDAs with clients, because sometimes they'll be like, oh, you cannot do the scope based on this business. And then a developer will say, yes, cloud by moment, I think we should do this. So you need to be able to control that developer, like,
The
no, we're not supposed
excitement.
to do that. Yes, you're not supposed to do that because the NDA says this. So it's a lot of context switching, and you're supposed to be very analytical and very, what can I say? Like just ready for anything. It's like a war zone. So anything can happen in any given day. And during low days when the developers are coding and the testers are testing and the business people are maybe running away because they're not paying invoices or the deadline is not there, you can research different tech solutions that are there, map out your roadmap, like what can we implement in version 2, version 3, so like how you wake up and then your app has new features, so that's what the BA will be doing behind the scenes, like I think we should add this, and then you can update it, and voila, new update is
Yeah.
there.
I've been seeing that a lot with WhatsApp, because now every day when you
Oh.
open the app, there's something new. There's a feature to
Mhm,
share your
mhm.
status, there's a feature to share to Facebook, there are stories, there are channels, and every day is just like something new. And I'm like, yeah, these BAs are not resting.
Yeah, the BAs and the product manager team, it's working tirelessly. But then you know what would be funny, Mike? You are looking at it and thinking those BAs are not working, but they probably did the work a year ago, and right now they're on vacation, and they're thinking about what's going to shock you next year. So yeah, they probably didn't work during that time, and now the developers are the
The
ones who are
developers are
pushing
there.
those updates.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So like the role itself, right? It sounds very cross-functional, because you're dealing with business, you're dealing with the developers, designers, testers, right, and doing a lot of research. So what would you
Mhm.
say are like the maybe top three skills that would qualify one as a BA, right? Was here on the Zim Tech podcast, we're speaking to like a lot of people who are still like trying to find their footing in the tech field. So what would you say like are the three skills that probably that you would make a good BA?
Okay, so the BA role now is evolving, right? So you find that there are different types of BA. There's a technical BA, there's a system analysis, there's the business analyst, there's a product analyst, there's a data analyst that are now being broken down because of the nature of different systems that are out there. So to be a generic BA, you need to know some technical knowledge. You need to have some technical knowledge in order to talk to the tech people, right? So you need to also know how a system works. You also need to, pull out a few SQL queries if you can. It's not a must, but you should. Just to run through some code, just basic if statements, and also just to know like how the platform or code works. Like, are you going to do a radio button, like just basic technology knowledge,
Okay.
technical knowledge, right? And then you also need to have knowledge of the business, how businesses work. So mostly it's like business information systems or just the business. How does a business make money? Why is it making money that way? What is the business model? And if that is the business model, how is a customer being charged? At what point? So you need to then know a particular business models. But now they're different businesses and now they're different technical languages, which is why the BA role is evolving. But you need to know both the tech side and the the business side. And top skills that you need to have other than these ones, you need to be able to communicate because the customer tells you something. You need to tell the tech team what they're saying, and it's just to explain simple things to the business. So to tell the business, no, we are not able to generate that report because we need this data set. So let's collect this data set maybe during KYC. So let's have a gender platform or a gender field so that we will be able to do this. So you're able to be communicating to the business as well as to talk to the tech team. Then the other important skill is critical thinking. You need to be able to spot gaps and risks that others miss. Like what you said, you wake up and there's a new feature. Right now, you think WhatsApp is good, but the BAs have already spotted, like, oh, I think we should do this. I think we have to do this. So you need to be able to do that. And then adaptability. You need to be able to adapt to changes because requirements change. A competitor would come up with a platform, they want it on their platform. So you need to be able to, be like, okay, let's work with this way and try to see how best that can be. So yeah, those are the top uh, skills, including the technical skills and the business skill, just to know um, like just being a domain knowledge on the particular system that you're working on.
Okay, so I love that. The last skill you touched on, right, is that adaptability. And it probably brings me to like one of my favorite topics of like the current like last 3 years or so, which is AI, right? So
Mhm.
already for some of us as developers, we know that AI is going to replace us. Where you've just been dreading the day. So now for some of us, I do most of my coding using AI, and it
Mhm.
does sometimes even a better job than me, right? Because I look at the code that AI writes and I'm like, I could never write this. And it's great.
Okay.
So towards the BA profession, right? What do you think is the impact of AI? Is AI coming to replace you guys? Is it complementing your skills? Like how are you using AI like on your day to day, and where do you see that going?
So I think like any other profession, AI is coming to get is coming to get us. I have used or run some few documents with AI, just trying to like explore different ideas. And I think there are also like different chat GPTs for BAs where you can come up with a document. So because some of the information is repetitive, like the login platform, the whatever, all those information, like it's now assumed knowledge that you can just pull it out from AI and come up with the documentation. The documentation that you come up with, the test scripts, the BRDs, is something that AI can just draft in a few seconds. However, there is that human element that AI doesn't have. So in as much as it can help, I think it's complementing, but running towards getting to us. So I also feel like my role is at stake, but I know AI will not really fully percent automate and replace us because at the end of the day, we will not find the differences with solutions. So you find that's how people move from Skype to WhatsApp and what people move from uh, G Talk to, because there is an element of humans that think and worry about what people are looking into, right? And AI probably doesn't have that know-how to say, oh, I can relate to this thing. Yeah, so I think we will be competing with AI, but our roles are still very much protected.
Okay. And I think like one other interesting way of looking at it is like in terms of collaborating with AI, right? Is
Uh-huh.
anytime you have a helper, you get more specialized roles coming up, right?
Yeah.
So originally, you know that maybe for me, right? The things that I do now, you need a backend developer, a front end developer, a database engineer, a DevOps engineer, right? But now with AI, I can sort of like just put all those things, right, and work at a higher level. So
Yeah.
now I'm sort of like at the BA level where I'm just like conceptualizing everything, making sure the business rules are in place, then making sure that the AI implements from the technical side the spec that I want it to, right? So I feel like as AI becomes more and more advanced, simple things like getting user stories, right? That's now something that can easily be done by AI. But in terms of maybe
Sure.
user research, you're saying, okay, we have these people that are using our app. We actually need to talk to them and get their feedback. That is still a human job. And maybe after taking that feedback and say, okay, analyze this feedback, that's AI, right? But it means we can now
Yeah.
do way, way, way more. And I think that's why companies like your WhatsApp are shipping more features now. Was Mark Zuckerberg was saying, I think about 30 or 40% of Facebook's code right now, Meta's code, is being written by AI, right? So it means
Yeah.
like we are now going to be doing so much more.
Yeah. Yeah. And I also feel like I think I've noticed this. Maybe I'll be wrong or maybe I'll get hit for saying this, but I feel like AI's build solutions are more capitalist solutions. They're always looking for when to charge this feature. How do we, like it's always like, oh, you can also do this. So I feel like the business models do not work in certain regions where, let's say in Africa or in Zimbabwe, where you're trying to actually introduce the automation of a particular process. We're not looking at this feature, you pay. This is you listen to this and then you pay at this moment, because that is a feature that can be done when there's adaptation and people are already reliant on that particular solution. So it's okay to sell some features. So you find some solutions with AI, they're just from they're for countries that have money
Yeah,
that
yeah.
people can, yeah, pay as you go kind of solution. So that's also something that you can also just try to think around.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely interesting. I think, like in as much as we have like your Meta AI that's free on WhatsApp, right?
Uh-huh.
A lot of the premium models, like if you use your ChatGPT, if you use your Cloud, you still have to pay for that, and it's a subscription. And it's a
Yeah,
subscription that initially we had ChatGPT for $20. Now there's a plan for $200. And Sam Altman was actually saying, "We want to launch a plan for $2,000, right? Because they're always like, no, how can we get more? And for markets like Zimbabwe
exactly.
now, you can't really pay $2,000 for AI, guys. Yeah,
Exactly. Like it doesn't make sense. So yeah, that is what I'm saying. Like if you look at a business, you say, oh, what are the business models? The business models do not work for this market.
yeah. I think just on that, right, on business models, you touched about your love for business. I think maybe let's move the conversation to Tech Absolutely. Your company that does tech PR, right?
Yes.
Maybe just introduce Tech Absolutely, introduce what tech PR is and why startups need it.
Okay, so Techsolutely is a tech PR organization. It's also a IT management organization. So it's a tech PR and IT management organization. And tech PR is about taking complex and technical products and turning them into clear stories. So our motto, you see, is making tech make sense, right? And it's not like traditional PR, or it's not like digital marketing, or it's not like we are doing sales, which other people think we do, like, oh, we're going to do this. But it's an idea that when you're trying to come up with, like when you're faced with that problem that a solution is solving, you are able to say, oh, I can use this. So for instance, I'm going to give you an example. Everyone knows that Apple iPhone is released every year. There's so many other mobile companies that release different models that are good every year, but people know that Apple every year around September. Around September, October, there's a new iPhone or there's a
They
new
released the
MacBook. And
same iPhone with a different number. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So it's the the role of tech PR. They've made it so much that when you were thinking of um, when you're thinking of changing a phone mid-year, you're gonna be thinking, oh, maybe I should just wait for an iPhone. Even if you're not an iPhone user, you're gonna be like, so that's the idea that you think about it. Uh, I'm gonna take an example. Like if you're going to like travel and go abroad, you're always going to say, oh, okay, I'm gonna have to download Uber, right? Even if in Zimbabwe there's no Uber, but there are Uber-like companies. You're always going to download Uber because that is what you know. So you see it in movies. People are going to say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna get you an Uber. Oh my Uber is late." So they've done a lot of PR that people know. If you need a taxi in a country that Uber is, you download
Yeah.
Uber.
If you're
It might not
traveling, you need to get an Airbnb.
exactly. You need to get an Airbnb because that is where you'd stay. Or if it's a hotel, then now you're going on booking.com, right? People don't know like there are multiple of packages where you can have your taxi, your hotel, and your flight. But the tech PR of those companies is top tier. So that is what we're trying to do, like to tell a story to the extent that when a person is faced with that solution or problem, they'll be like, oh, just download this, just use this. And that is what we represent. And then IT management part of it is we manage the management of your solution so that people can understand to say, oh, okay, you want to release this. Why don't you release this? Because we will tell the story like this. And then we manage it. So it's all like nice consultancy, nice to have that I also felt like in my BA role was lacking with most of the people that I would interact with because they also didn't know what they wanted to do or what they would want to have in the next maybe 2 years or and they didn't even know what they were solving. They knew the problem, but only the people around them. But the next person would face the same problem and would still, you know, look for a solution. Yeah.
Okay. No, that sounds very nice. Seems like you're managing the entire life cycle. So from
Mm.
launching to spreading the word about the solution to even coming back and saying, okay, now that we've launched this, probably like we need to put this and this and this on the roadmap so that people continue to have a good user experience with this project.
Yeah, and it also goes beyond, like for you say for startups, it also goes beyond like, do you want to be funded? And then we look for funding for you. At what point are you selling the solution? Because someone will have an idea and then it's nice, and then sell it to other people if you're not going to continue managing it. So it goes beyond that, like pitching your idea to, like it's fun. Like my company is so much fun because I get to talk to different people at different stages in their tech stories and tech journeys.
You seem like you really enjoy what you're doing. I want to pick your brain on funding, but first, here's the problem with Zimbabwe. I find that a lot of the times PR gets gets replaced with propaganda. And if you actually want to market any product, they end up just having like a jingle and a roadshow, and they give people T-shirts, and that's like the default thing, right? There's this big blue company that anytime they launch something, you know that you're going to get a jingle, whatever song is trending, we're going to get a
Yeah.
remix of that song. We're going to have a roadshow. They're going to give people T-shirts, and to them that's tech PR, right? So how is yours different, right? Like, can you just walk through like maybe something you did for a client or something that you do for a fictional client, right? To actually make sure that their product, um, one, the market receives the product, the market uses the product, and really feels the benefits beyond just like a nice little jingle.
Okay, so just to clarify, Tech PR is not using a jingle. The jingle is nice because it's also like trending, and people now want trending music. You've seen that with TikTok. So it's more like marketing and sales, right? You're trying to get people to talk about whatever with their favorite artist. So it's more like marketing. With tech PR is not okay. I can accept on the propaganda part of it, but it's more than it's like telling your story. We're telling your story. Like right now, people are already talking about how the iPhone user changed the cameras. So that's the kind of propaganda that we're trying to do. In as much as it's not a one camera, but it's a better camera, you know. So you don't need all those three plates. What people say, three plate stove. Now it's no longer trending, you know. So it's also like in a
There's,
different
there's this
technical way.
there's this picture, and I'll try and put it up right. Where
Mhm.
isn't it the new iPhone is slimmer, right?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, because of the cameras, was like the iPhone is very very slim, but the camera is still like there, right? Because they were marketing it as the
Mhm.
slimmest iPhone yet. Then people are comparing that. No, if you include the camera, it's not that slim. It's almost as big, right?
It's just
But the
the same,
propaganda
yeah.
is hit. Anyone who touches the iPhone is like, oh, it's so slim that they forget that there's a camera just like popping out. So I feel like in terms of propaganda, like iPhone does that. Like in terms of the camera, Samsung is a better camera.
Mhm.
The Google Pixel is the best camera for like 3 years in a row. But you always
Mhm.
find the iPhone users, the way they are proud of their cameras. If they take pictures of you, you need 3 business days to get those pictures. So I would say, yeah,
Definitely.
that propaganda works. And kudos to
The
to the iPhone
propaganda.
team. Yeah.
Yeah, the propaganda works. So on a tech PR that, like, do I do a fictional one or something that I've been working on?
Either whatever you're comfortable with. I know sometimes NDAs can limit you to share about certain things. Yeah.
Okay, so I think I can talk about this one where it's an organization that used to time um, runners, managing runners, right? So they had a platform and they used to manage people who are running like marathons and sporting events. But the problem that they were having was there wasn't a platform for them to centralize their data. And so let's say a company, let's say your company is doing a marathon, right? And people sell the tickets online, someone buys on EcoCash on WhatsApp, someone will call, yo, my tickets, you know, and so there wasn't any collection point of the money, there wasn't any collection point of the data because you we needed to find out like why is Mike running at this age? Or you're running, you know, database, right? So there
Yeah.
wasn't any of that. But as a business, they were making money because they were to manage the races, right? So people would show up, but then there were also money that was just, you know, going into the because someone would give this money for tickets, someone would pay using EcoCash, someone would put an inbox, and then just to do the accounting, it was just a lot of time. So we sat down with these people and they approached us and we managed to do a tech PR campaign that turned around their data management. So it came from registering. Everyone was running on a central point. So we collect all the information about the person, your age, your stage, your ID, your indemnity, because something would happen. And there wasn't any written consent. It was like known, but there was risk of being sued, right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
I fainted. So now there's an indemnity and everything is, you know, time stamped and then the collection of the money, we started using a third party payment gateway, but we evolved into using a different, like an in house payment gateway because the third party, relying on third party, there is settlement, but then this is the same amount that is being used to print your ticket, to print your medal, your t-shirt, or the runner's thing. And people always, you know, like just try to what can I say? To register the last point, right? So, but business will always use its money to, you know, print t-shirts and then sometimes more people will not come and some people will run, they're not registered. Like it was just chaotic. But now because of that, we created like a platform where, you know, if a race is out and you really want to run for that race, the tickets will run out. So you find people are now buying tickets in advance, the money is there. So it was a huge tech turnaround for the organization. And even now, changing into different, or not changing, like expanding into different services where you find different events coming up and selling their tickets, just marketing, coming up with the problems that people are facing. Because most people complain that ticketing platforms in Zimbabwe don't work, but I've seen that that works, most of it. All the events that are done on that, there are no problems unless the APIs of the different third parties you're connecting to are down, which is very common sometimes. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know why, but yeah, so that's like a tech PR thing that we've done. Just trying to like have an evolution of that. So if you've ever run a marathon, I think you can attest to that. Like you no longer call someone like it's a deal. Like, are the tickets available? Are they still available? Now you can just do it on your own, get your own information, run and enjoy your life. There's so many things that we're working in the pipeline that are interesting until we come up with a full campaign so that people see our journey. But that's like something that we are actively working on, and yeah,
Okay. Are we allowed to
excited about.
mention this client's name?
Yeah, we are. You can put up their site on your
Okay.
platform.
Because what I was gonna say is, so I started running, I think 2 years back, right?
Hmm.
And I think so. The client is Hype Nation, right? So what I've realized, right, is they've become synonymous with the running. So anytime I want to look up upcoming races, I always go to
Hmm.
their site. So there's a race calendar that's released by the, I think it's what Harare Athletic Commission, HAC, right?
The heck, yeah.
Yes, but no one uses that anymore. Everyone is always like, okay, let's just go on this site because we always know that if the race is not live on this site, I can buy tickets instantly. So, but with Hack, you know that you need to look at the calendar, you need to guess when the tickets will become available, guess when they'll become available. So I think that sort of
Uh-huh.
convenience for runners, people love it. And even the fact that
Uh-huh.
if the race, because there are certain races that are very, very in demand, right? Your qualifier races. So you know that if the race opens up at midnight, everyone is trying to like um, join that race, right? So the convenience of saying, okay, I'll just leave money in my EcoCash, and whenever they open up, I can buy my tickets. So I think in terms of that, yeah, like there's something at the back of every runner's mind that says if you want to do races, just go look up on that site and you get your races. So yeah, great job on that campaign.
Thank you. And it's also going to to expand to people who want to start running. So this is some new cool features that are coming into the pipeline. So if you want to try running for the first time, like it's gonna be like a one-stop shop for everything. Essentially, actually events. Like we have so many exciting features that I can't talk about at this moment, but the campaign is going to be so big. So, in case you want to understand what Take Care is, it's our journey. We take you step by step, like crawling, walking, running, you know, going up. So, yeah, we started from the crawling, now we're walking. We're going to be running soon.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like a very exciting roadmap. Maybe just moving back to when you were talking about funding, and I feel like being able to tell your story is something that really opens up funding, right? And I've
Yeah.
heard people saying that a lot of the times when companies don't get funding is because really they don't tell their story well, and you need to
Yeah.
when you go to the investor, you're like, no, guys, I just want small 50,000. The investor's like, well, what do you do, right? And that's part of it. But I really want you to discuss maybe about the funding ecosystem in the country.
Mhm.
How is it? Because I know people always complaining that no, there's no funds going towards startups. There are funds for cars. There are cars every other week, right? But like people are like,
Mhm.
okay, but where are the funds for startups? Because startups really have the potential of just changing the whole economy, right? But there doesn't seem to be any funds going towards that.
I think it's what you tell yourself. Because if there was funding for agricultural stuff, people would always say, "Oh, there's no funding for cars." Now there's funding for cars. People are going to say a lot of things. I think it's a misconception that people want to try to say there's no funding. There is funding. There is funding, and especially when it comes to technology. I think it's a matter of positioning yourself, which is why you should hire or book a consultation with us. And secondly, it's a matter of, are you really solving a solution? I have found so many people who have come up with an ERP system. There's so many developers. There's so many companies that have an ERP system somewhere in a local host, somewhere in, you know, and you want to look for funding for an ERP system just because you developed it. That's different because a funder has money, right? I have money, but I have money that I can put money to. Do you get what I'm saying? So if you need money, you need to start looking at the things that people are looking into. So there is something to do with inclusiveness, right? So you find like a company that could be funded is someone that is including everyone in their solution. So if your solution is an ERP system, the login, you have customers, CRM, or you're not going to get funding and you're going to say there's no funding. Do you understand? Because there's a ERP system better than yours or something. I do not know what jujutsu you can do, but if it just has the basic features, then there's probably no funding that would come your way. But if you have something that is inclusive, because I saw a platform, I don't know if you've seen it, Mike, where this guy has like an array, a buffet of all the USSD features in one. Because now, if I want to buy top up, I have to do star something. If I want to check my balance, I have to do star something. If I want to do something, and sometimes I forget because I don't use even all those crazy things. But then this person developed something called an array of, I don't know if the name I forgot in one of the communities, an array of USSD where you just do one
Oh,
USSD and
yeah.
it gives you whatever that you want. Those kind of solutions get funded, right? And if you're watching, please book me for a
are you
consultation.
are you funding this person?
I might find someone who wants to fund those things because a fund is there are different types of funders. There's someone who wants to fund your idea because they want to see it grow. They have the money to fund. And then there's someone who wants to fund because they want to be part of the idea, right? So the idea has to make sense because if the funding is for the development and there's equally another budget for marketing because you're getting into a stiff market, it's I don't know if you understand. Like
Yeah.
people would go for the easier, easier route because this person already have money. So funding is there. There are people with money there. There are people who want to put money in technology. You have to come up with a solution that people would want. So it's like hairstyle, right? There's so many hairstyles, Mike. There's so many. But you need to have a hairstyle that would make people say, "Oh, I also want that hairstyle." People can, take screenshots and send their hairdresser like, "I also want that hairstyle." And even the hairdressers are now thinking, "How can we learn how to do this hairstyle?" But you can't tell me, "Oh, no, there's no new hairstyles." I don't know if you understand
No,
my
definitely.
my
Yeah.
example. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think just following up on that, right? You were talking about ERPs. I think I've seen there are certain things that developers make that like they're already there and they're a bit saturated, right? So someone would develop an ERP,
Mhm.
like, okay, how can I? Yes, you can probably get clients for that who will pay you upfront, but in terms of getting
Mhm.
funding, there's nothing unique there, right?
Yeah.
So maybe like I, I know you're a bit moneyed up, right? So let's just say you're like maybe 50 or 100K in order to invest in startups, right? What areas would you say like developers please focus on these areas because I feel like they have the most potential?
Uh, so definitely it cannot be um, ERP systems. I would invest on lifestyle solutions. Right. And I would invest on third party solutions. So let's say you have an API that can be plugged in different solutions. So for example, I know Zimbabwe is not a tipping economy, but if someone could create an API or whatever it is that can be plugged in Drive, what, and every time you make a purchase, you can tip. and I get 10 cents out of the tip, and then the person, like something
Yeah.
that can be reused in different things, I can do that. Or something that is into like health and education, because I feel like, oh, health, education, and agriculture. I feel like those certain things. I think I was discussing this with someone yesterday. Like there's so many fuel stations coming up, right?
Yeah.
And I was asking her, what qualifications does one need to have a fuel station?
Qualification or connection?
No, qualification. Like
Okay.
what, let's say you don't have the connection, but what qualification would you require to have a fuel station?
Mm, personally, I don't know.
Literally anyone with money can have a
Yeah,
fuel station.
I think it's just your money and your connection to like get the license from zero, right?
Yeah. So you need, but there's no like you need to have knowledge in petroleum or fueling or engineering.
You can
Like
always hire
anyone
those
can,
guys.
yeah. But then there's no technology that is being done for skill sets like agronomy or all those little things that people are doing. So those are the technologies that we're trying to, so that we do not become a service industry and have technologies that are more into like production. Those are the technologies that I would work on, because you find like it's eroding. You can learn social sciences and still have a physician. You can be a doctor and a physician. So there's now service industry that is, and yeah. So I think that, and what else can I invest in? Agriculture, because I'm a farmer as well. So I would love different technologies to help me in farming so that it doesn't become a toil, uh, strenuous role that we have at this moment where you need to give in all the work. Like if there's technology that could assist you, I think that would be perfect. So I would invest in agricultural solutions, and they need to be solutions that are technical, not inputs. And I'll feel like, oh, I have 10 eggs, so I sold three. So no, not those ones. Like real nice, great
Yeah.
technology
And
solutions. Yeah.
and maybe like one more thing, right? I've seen that there's a tendency, with people doing startups, that sometimes they avoid the hard work, right? So
Mhm.
you don't really see anyone coming through and like, no, we have a patented technology, right? It's just,
Mhm.
oh no, we saw this being done in America, and there's nothing wrong with that. It works. But there are certain times where you're like, okay, there are differences between how things operate in America and how things operate here, right? And you should really like take time to actually do research and take time to actually like say, okay, our technology is particularly suited for for like the third world country, or for this type of people that are using it and things like that. And I don't see a lot of that
Mhm.
happening. I just see a lot of like, oh, I created a clone of Airbnb and I want people to use it, right? And you find that up
Yeah.
to now, there's a housing crisis that technology hasn't solved yet, right? I know so many people are like, no, I'm looking for a good house. I want to move. No, I want to travel to this place, and I'll spend like 2 weeks, but I'm failing to find a place, right? And no one is really like looking at like, oh, how do we solve this for the particular context of that area, and taking time to actually put their head at the problem. So yeah.
Okay, and I like that you came up with the real estate, because we also developed a
Ooh.
real estate solution. It's called Discover Homes, and it's more than just a listing platform. Yeah, maybe when we launch in a few weeks, hopefully days, people can be able to understand. So it has like property insights. So I'm looking at, if I want to look for a house, nowadays it's like, where is it? Is there electricity? Is it accessible to town? But then there's so much more to a house than where you are going to stay, right? The pricing and all. There's a lot of things that happen in your space. So you need to know, like, is there a crime rate? Is like all this information you just
Yeah.
genuinely need to know. Like if you're gonna fall
Any
sick.
recreational areas close by?
Yeah, if you're gonna fall sick, are you going? There's a pharmacy. I know there's also like an array of pharmacies just popping up anyway. But there's so many things that needs to be considered in terms of, property. So yeah, just like technology, so many things that needs to be considered in terms of investment. So yeah.
Okay, no, I definitely like the sound of that. I can't wait till you guys launch. Because
Called
whenever
Discover Homes.
Discover Homes, okay.
Uh-huh.
So hopefully you guys are launching soon. We'll share it with the community when you guys launch so that they also try it out.
Thank you.
Okay, okay, so I just wanted to touch on one thing, right? So I know you've spent like a lot of time abroad. You've
Mhm.
spent time abroad for schooling. You've spent time abroad for work in a lot of different countries. So I just wanted to ask, like, what are some of the lessons that you have brought back home, right? I find there are a lot of online discussions that talk about exposure, and it's normally linked to the tech ecosystem being a bit stagnant and not moving, because people are like, no, you're not exposed to how people do things in the West. You're not exposed to Silicon Valley. You have spent some time in Silicon Valley, right? So what are some of the lessons that you think are important for the Zim Tech community to also try and adopt here in terms of maybe how they work, how the solutions they implement, and different things, right?
Okay, so I think one huge difference is the discipline of documentation and processes, and as well as the things that I found like here, people are more into like they like, oh, we are the first to do this, we are the first. So credibility really matters if you're working on something. So you find that in larger markets the documentation is done, people do a lot of brainstorming, there is a lot of retrospection, there are different metrics, there's solutioning sessions. I like the mirror board because you can, have those different solutioning things that I learned. So, in as much as things move fast, but you find that there's certain processes that can work. One example is when I used to do procurement for IT services. Um, in as much as, let's say, the amount is very attractive, like they'll say, okay, the solution is needed for 5 years for this department. They come up with a solution and it's going to be like maybe like 12 million. There will be a bid, no bid solution. Like, are we going to do this? Why are we not doing this? Okay, let's take time, let's upskill people to be able to do this. And it's not like where here people just like, oh, I can do it. And then they get the money and
Give
then
me the
they
job. I can do it. Trust me.
exactly, exactly. So you should be willing to part with certain things, not just to jump. But I also think it's also like maybe in the market there isn't really like I don't know how to put it, but I feel like if you focus on what you do and you do exactly what your skill set is going to work. Like if you stay on your lane and you then um, do solutions or systems based on the things that you really know, it come they like there's a result that comes out with it. Then for someone who doesn't know anything to then have that and then start, hiring different people. In an example, I was talking to a new client of ours. Hopefully, they're going to sign. They were talking about, oh, we have a school system, we even have a web page. And I was looking at the web page and it's on Strikingly. And I'm like, how much did you pay for this? Like, oh, we paid a lot of money. And I'm trying to tell this person, like, nah, this is a drag and drop minute job that this tech person did for you. But I also feel like a lot of people do that. So if you are disciplined enough and honest enough to do things that you work on, and there's also an accountability thing. If I say you need to do this, so you need to say, oh, you're going to do this, because you find a lot of proposals that I read. It's like a guy asking out a girl, they overpromise. When it's come to executing, it's like differently. So those are the things that I want to do. Borrowing that discipline would help. Local PRs need to stop just launching. Oh, we're launching this. They're making noise. They're putting bulk SMSs. Like they flood us with an idea, but we actually don't know what it is. Um, that has to stop. Like genuinely has to stop. We flooding different weird adverts during news hour during event. Like I really don't know, but it has to be better. Like the marketing people have to do better. I feel like there's that gap. And you find that there are now different creatives coming up. I'm seeing, I think there's a guy called Multi Perry who's doing great in selling a story for a particular product. I wish people could also just come up with different things like that.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely interesting. Maybe just building on top of that, right? Like you're telling me us what you've learned from the outside, right? Maybe what are some of the blunders that you can now recognize that, oh, this is right? Because you're talking about people bidding for jobs that they can't do. Unfortunately, we had one of the top business people in the country saying that everyone should be a tenderpreneur, right? And
Mhm.
that is just like, okay, I'm just gonna go bid and then hire people who do it. So yeah, I think we need to shift away from that to what can I do, right? If you need to upskill, you need to upskill, right? So
Mhm.
maybe on the PR side, right? Like in terms of launching and whatnot, like what are like the big mistakes that companies are making and how can we improve them?
Okay, so I think I saw that clip about everyone should be a tenderpreneur, and they gave an example to say the richest man in the world has a contract with the
Elon
government,
Musk,
and the
yeah,
government, yeah,
and he's worked fund with Google.
um, yeah. And me, I have worked in federal contracting, right, where I understand, but then there are ways that the federal contracting needs to be done so that anyone can be able to access it. So you find that in a particular region, right, where there's federal contracting, a department of education can say we have a budget for 2 billion in the next 5 years, right? That is going to be done for ABCD. So this is, it will be put out and people would see. Then there are different organizations that would then say, okay, if we want to go into cybersecurity, we need to be able to adopt different companies. So they merge or they do something called a mentor protege, where they merge with the smaller companies. And you also find that these tenders are not open for everyone. They are said, okay, this is for large businesses, this is for women-owned business, this is for minority-owned business, this is for, so anyone. And even in the tendering, they say you, if you are a large company, you are supposed to also partner 30% with two small companies that can do A, B, C, D. So anyone can then get money from it because it's a process that is there. There is a procurement timetable. You can sit there and think, okay, in the next 5 years, let's target these departments, let's upskill, let's do this. Which then becomes different in this thing because you find that an organization can say, oh, we need a biometric system. And another organization needs the same biometrics, and it goes through the same thing. And a smaller company, the bigger company would then, and yeah, maybe the smaller company is capable, but then the bigger company is is credible. Do you get it? And so there isn't the processes that then makes the tendering process then make sense. So it then makes sense for Elon Musk in the federal contracting. But when it comes to Zimbabwe, it then becomes very difficult because that's when anyone would go on a tender and apply for it. I can fix CCTVs because it's under ICT. The departmentation on the porters things, they're not broad enough. Um, firstly, so it's not user friendly. We also don't understand. It's also like, so it's hard. It's it's hard. Then it then doesn't make sense when the person is saying it, but it actually makes sense in a different environment. So yeah.
Yeah, I actually like the part we talk about companies partnering together, right? Because I
Mhm.
think here the problem is there is one guy who has connections or the company is big and they probably can't do the job, but they'll say that no, if you want this, uh, we'll do 50-50. You do all the work, we take 50% of the money because you're using our name and that's it. And there's no that partnering where you actually say, okay, we are doing it together, and at the end of this we have experience, our name is also in the in the system for price. And next time there's a tender, we can actually go and say, okay, we have done A, B, C, D. So I think that those
Yeah.
synergies are great.
So yeah, so that's when, like I was saying, that doesn't work because you find like these other things, probably the one that I was working on health, they would say we want female-owned businesses. And I was given an example to my pastor the other time. We're just having a conversation, and he was asking me about like what does he think about all this. So there is a school in my neighborhood, and there's a road that is being constructed, and there's a local person who's constructing it from, yeah, a local person. And I was telling him that if women are involved in this tendering process and this construction, you'll find that it's even better. So you find like that road is really nice, it's really smooth, and it passes through a school, right? But because it's a man who's doing it, they did not consider what should be done because there's a school. So they didn't think of putting a sidewalk for the kids. They didn't think of putting different things that have precautions for the children at the school, maybe a bus stop or anything. It's just a smooth road. So people are going to be cruising. So in the next 10 years, God forbid, you're going to be hearing things like, oh, a child was run over because someone was reckless driving there. So women are also supposed to be included into this. So especially that big company get a tender, they say 30% of a women-owned business are supposed to support this. They can solve such information or such situations in the processing, including technology. If a big tech company is to come up, they should have women involved in making decisions if the solution can serve the female market as well.
Okay, and I think that's a great point, Juris. Yeah, inclusivity, right? Because let's say on the sidewalks, I do a lot of running, and one thing I always notice is the areas where I run, and I know that there's a proper cycle lane, right? There's a proper sidewalk, and I can run, and I know that I am not interacting with the cars, right? There are certain roads which I now avoid where I know that the road is very, very narrow. There is no proper place for people to walk and things like that. And you told like whoever did this was really thinking of inclusivity, right? You do the same thing when you go
Yeah.
into town and you see most of the shops there, they don't have like ramps for wheelchairs and whatnot. You
Yeah.
even find that downtown, most of the shops is a security measure. They have like this block at the door that reduces the chance of people running out because you actually need to take time and walk over it. But at the same time, you're looking at that
Oh.
and you're like, how does a person with a wheelchair who's differently able, right, use that shop, right? So maybe just one more thing, right? Maybe not even just looking at Harari in general, but just looking at the tech side.
Mhm.
What are your
Mhm.
thoughts on like building more inclusive tech? I find that a lot of the times we do tech is just most of the people would use it like this. I had a demo I was doing the other time, and part of the audience I had were deaf people, right? And we had a translator, but part of my
Mhm.
presentation had audio on it, music, and I realized that mid presentation that the presentation wasn't done the right way because part of my audience can't listen to this music, right? So I should have probably been more inclusive in my approach. But now I think about that a lot more when I'm doing like my apps or my websites, right? Is okay. Um, do we have alternative text for images? Are the colors like are they okay to read for someone who's probably colorblind? Will they get the same experience or something near that experience? Right? Yeah. So yeah, just what are your thoughts on inclusive tech? What do we need to do more of and things like that?
So I'm gonna give you an example, and this is so crazy. During Fridays, like probably after working hours, I used to love going to the Apple Carnegie Library. It's one of the biggest Apple stores in Washington, D.C. So they used to have lessons on editing your images, like different, tricks for Apple. And then there's a DJ. There was a DJ that was there. So you'll find that there was like a deaf DJ who would be dancing and saying the music, and the people would be dancing, and it was really nice to watch. And sometimes you get inside, and then they'll tell you like, oh, the person who's going to give you a demo is not here, so you need to learn how to, like do the translator using different devices. I think it's something that in Zimbabwe we haven't really looked into, like including people. It starts with just including females in different roles. Then you also include people who need certain things. So you find like um, even in doors, different doors, there's no any braille writing, right? In buses, there isn't anything that cater for like a wheelchair, like the buses here, even the combis, right? Even the mshika shikas, there isn't any spot for disabled people to come in. So I think it's something that we haven't really in we need to start including it, and it has to start with um I don't know where it has to start with. Maybe in schools where you have a like a disabled toilets for, different people, or like the languages to start with. And I also like that with the marathons, you find that there are some races that include, these races, which is really good because they'll end up racing in the Paralympics, I think Paralympics. So, and also the ZBC News includes that. But I think there should be more. It definitely should be more, and it's something that we should start to embrace. The technologies it has to cater for that. The service people who welcome you in a bank, they need to have a certain person who can, talk to those people. It's something that we don't have, even in a.
Actually, just one more thing. You see how towards COVID, all of the banks ended up having those doors where you need to press and pull the door and get in, right? That's another problem because if maybe you're on a wheelchair, right, you can't pull that door, right? So you need someone to actually assist you just to get into the bank.
Oh, and the best thing that they've done is for them to use USSD banking so that those people don't have to come to the bank, which I feel like that's like a generic, that's like a generic, what is it called? Inclusiveness. Because you find like there's so many banks that have drive-through ATMs. So if
Yeah.
a person cannot get into the bank, they can be in their car and then they can do a drive-through ATM. But I know obviously there's a security feature, but those are the things that they are trying to, like, I wish we could do more.
Install, yeah.
We genuinely have to do more when it comes to solutions that we're developing, just introducing certain things to do that. Yeah.
All right. All right. I think that's time. That's all the time we have for today, Sandra. But thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking to you, learning the different sides that you're a BA, about your company, also learning that you're a farmer. I think we need another episode just to discuss your farming. But yeah,
Yes, I'm a farmer.
thank you so much for the insights and just taking the time. It's been a great episode. Do you have any parting words for the listeners?
Just to say, if you're not sure about your solution, if it will sell, if you're not sure, if you have hiccups or if you have stress, that just keep going on. And if you're not really, 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 really sure, you now need to hire a BA. And if you don't know, like let's say you have this idea, you then had a brain clog, it's not time to hire a tech PR consultant. So we're always there to help you, assist you, and tell you this not gonna sell, this will sell, and yeah, you can you can contact us on the information in the description below.
All right, thank you so much, Sandra. I'll make sure to leave you information there so that if anyone wants to get tech PR, wants BA services, IT management services, and wants funding, they'll contact you.
Thank you so much.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Guys, as always, please like, share, and subscribe. We have more episodes coming up with interesting personalities such as Sandra. Thank you.